definitely not Ted
No,
Cruz.
that's definitely not it.
Yeah. So let's see what we're gonna like. Hang on a second here. I am gonna go for this one. I think that it was a random killing. I don't think anybody in the village really had an incentive to kill him in such a huge, horrible way. I mean, if I wanted to kill Charlie and I lived in that, what I would do is I would bash him over the head with a rock and leave his body lying near a rock on the ground, so it maybe looked like possibly he just tripped and fell and bashed his head. I mean, you don't do something super spectacular in a tiny village.
And then try to make it... I mean, Is this a Mr. Bean scenario where he trips on a rock and the pitchfork goes flying and the flash hook hits him and bounces off and then he gets knocked in the head and then he falls?
I don't think so.
No.
I just think that it was not somebody from the village. I just really find it hard to believe somebody from the village would have done that.
I agree.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking some random thrill kill murder, perhaps.
That seems like the most likely. I mean, it could. I think that the whole witchcraft angle is hooey.
Oh yeah.
But I also think that there is the possibility that somebody in the village knew something or was responsible. That's a really small chance, but I can't rule that out entirely.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, actually, there could have been one person in the village who was a murderer. Yeah, it could have been
possible.
I mean, he could have been a dirty old man for all we know, and he was pinching some girl's fanny every time he saw her, and her dad or her brother had enough. I mean, that happens. That used to happen.
Yeah.
You defended her honor by taking the guy's head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it was random too.
Yeah, most likely, but we don't think we'll ever know. Okay, so that's it for this episode. So a few administrative details here. Number one, you probably want to know how to get a hold of us. You can get a hold of us through our email, which is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. We also have one of these website thingy-bobbers. It is called thinkingsidewayspodcast.com, where you can download our episodes or listen to them. And we'll have links up there. We're definitely going to have some cool links for you, like that BBC interview that we found so funny.
Yeah.
And of course,
definitely has to be on there.
Oh, yeah. You can also find us in other places, like, of course, good old iTunes, where you can subscribe. You can rate us and review us. Give us a good rating. We like those better. Well, and that'll make us like you better. So it's a win all the way around. And of course, you can stream us like Google Play and lots of other places. We are also part of this whole social media thing you've probably heard so much about. There's the Facebook, where we have a group and a page. So join the group, like the page. Don't try to friend us, but just join the group. There's lots of fun discussions going on out there. We are also on the Twitter, where we are Thinking Sideways. And we have a subreddit, Thinking Sideways. And what else? There's merchandise. If you're really interested, you can get shirts, mugs, stickers. There are Zazzle and Redbubble stores that are linked on the right-hand panel of our website. And that's about it. So until next week and our next fantastic mystery, I'm signing off. This is Jose. Toodaloo.
Bye.
So I have this hedge that needs trimming. Can you guys come take a look at it? I got this really
That's kind of Devin's specialty.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Bye, guys.
Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by the School of Murderous Clownfish. Instead, it's supported by the generous contributions of people like you, our listeners, on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Thinking Sideways to learn more.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I am Steve, as always, joined by
Joe.
And Devin.
And it's been a really long time since we've done this.
Yep.
Yeah.
For us. For you, we've been putting out episodes.
Yeah.
For us, we just finished the summer series. We're in... Yeah, we didn't do anything.
No.
Not really.
Super awesome.
It was really cool.
Nice to get a break here from all this hot action. Yeah.
But it's a little weird now because it's been a long time and I don't remember how to operate any of the equipment.
Now, did anybody remember to turn the mixer on?
It appears to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
all right, good.
sweet. All right, well, we should get this off on a good foot. So we've got to do the cheer. So everybody put your hands in a circle.
All right.
And on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Ooh,
Solve the
number
mystery.
one.
solve the mystery.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
It's going to be another fine episode.
Yeah.
No, I forgot. I got it wrong. It's supposed to be Deutschland über always.
No. All right. Well, this week, everybody, we are going to talk about the Wonderland murders, which took place on the 1st of July, 1981 in Los Angeles, California. And a quick warning to our listeners, this story covers a very brutal murder, and it's going to have a lot of conversation surrounding drugs and pornography. So, if that bothers you, turn us off now. Or more importantly, if you have little ears around, you need to pause us now and come back later on your own. Little ears don't need this.
Yeah, or get those ear extension things. Come
Those
on.
little earbuds.
Headphones?
No, the things that make your ears look bigger.
The Spock ears?
Yeah.
Why?
Put them on a
so
kid.
that you don't look like you have little ears anymore.
There you go. It would be kind of hard to have little ears, wouldn't it? I'm actually thinking about it. You got kind of little ears.
Okay,
All right.
we're going to keep going. So before I move into anything about the story, I do want to say that this was a listener suggestion. The first person to suggest this was Angel. So thank you, Angel. And anybody else who suggested it, thank you as well. Just don't have those written down.
Oh, and by the way, I want to give a shout out to Elena, or maybe it's Elena, who was all hurt because I did an episode and I forgot to give her a shout out. So I'm sorry, Elena.
Tell
I apologize.
him every time to look at the list.
I know.
And he tells me he will.
Listen, that list is big.
It is.
So
But it
it's
does have a
hard.
search function like our website.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our story. This story is typically either referred to as the Wonderland murders, or sometimes you'll hear it called, the police actually started calling it this, was the 4 on the floor murders. You can probably guess, and if you know Los Angeles at all, you are going to be aware of, in the valley, it's Wonderland Ave. And it's, what's the name of the valley? I just suddenly lost it.
Oh, it's
It's Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
So it's in Laurel Canyon, which is
Canyon, not valley.
I know. I'm already screwing it up. See, we haven't done this in so long. I don't know how to talk.
Yeah.
Worse than normal.
You haven't
Yeah.
spoken in like a month.
I really haven't.
I know.
Took a vow of silence.
I
Everybody
know.
was happy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that is where all of this took place. So here's what we know as we take the story from the start. Sometime in the night or possibly in the early morning hours of July 1st, 1981, someone gained access to the 3-story house at 8763 Wonderland Ave, and they proceeded to go through the house and beat every person they found to death, or nearly to death, with a pipe.
4 pipes.
Pipes. Yeah, possibly plural. We know that they were using pipes because of the fact that they were threaded pipes. They had threads on the end.
They left a little impression, didn't they?
And they left impressions in the bodies as well as the walls and the furniture.
Rough.
And their heads.
In the bodies and the furniture. Yes,
Oh.
in everything. It was brutal. At the time of this attack, there were 5 people in the house. The first person was 22-year-old Barbara Richardson.
I thought you said 4.
4 people died.
Oh.
5 people were in the house.
Oh, it's a happy story.
Sort of.
Okay.
Kind of.
Yeah, she got brain damage.
Yeah, well, no, okay, so Barbara's the first person. Now, Barbara was the girlfriend of a man named David Lind. David Lind wasn't in the house at the time, but we're going to talk about him a little bit more later on. But she was sleeping downstairs on the couch and was most likely the first one to die because she was sleeping near the front door.
And the access was gained from the front door, probably?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a garage and a front door, and from what I can gather, I've never gotten a good picture of the garage to say that there were stairs. I think it was you parked in the garage and then you walked up the front steps.
Like more like a carport sort of
Yes.
situation?
Well, it was under the house.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's my impression, is that you go on the right side of the house, there's an external stairway.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that I've seen the police footage, and that's where I was trying to figure out the internal stairs from the garage. Whenever you go on like Google Street View, of course the garage door is closed.
Right, yeah.
Because somebody lives there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, anywho, The access is most likely from the front door, which was on the side of the house, and she was sleeping on a couch on that floor that would have been near that door, so she's probably the first one to die.
Or more likely, she might have been the person who got up and answered the door.
If she did indeed let somebody in, then yeah, she would have been the first one to die. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't have been died in her sleep. She'd have been awake for it.
But that's hard to tell.
Yeah, that's complete and total conjecture. We go to the first bedroom, which I believe is on the same floor. The layout of this house is weird because it's kind of narrow and tall.
Yeah, skinny and tall because lots in that area because it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's like San Francisco, skinny, tall townhome kinds of homes.
So I believe the bedroom that was also on the first floor, but in that bedroom, there was Ron Lanius and his wife Susan. Now, Susan, bad timing on her part.
Yeah,
wasn't normally there. She was visiting to try and fix her marriage with Ron Lanius. But they were sleeping in this first floor bedroom, and they were probably the second and the third to be attacked. He was beaten to death. He was killed. She, however, was not killed. She was beaten so severely that she suffered brain damage and amnesia. She has memory loss for the whole event. She doesn't remember anything.
Well, reasonably, she was beat so bad that they thought they had killed her.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It makes total sense
Yeah.
that her brain didn't catalog it.
Her brain was dead maybe for a while.
Or
Yeah.
she played possum effectively.
I don't think intentionally.
More likely
Yeah, I
she
think
just
her brain
knocked
might have
out.
been like, okay, bye.
Yeah, brain shut down.
Yeah.
But okay, so then we're going to move upstairs. So now we have two people who are dead and one who's alive. If we go upstairs to the master bedroom, Billy Deverell and his girlfriend Joy Miller. Joy Miller, it was her house. She owned the house, and Billy was, obviously her live-in boyfriend.
And by the way, she's kind of, all these people are a little bit tragic in a sense because I've seen pictures of Joy when she was younger, and she was damn
She was
good looking.
stunning.
She was, yeah. And by the end, she was this
What about
awful.
Billy?
Billy
Was Billy good looking?
He was like an average looking guy.
He was kind of an
What
average
about
guy.
Ron? Was he good looking?
No, none of them. I mean, there was nothing outstanding about any of these people in the looks department.
Except
she
for
was the
Joy.
only one.
But by the time
She had
died,
come from a rather affluent beginning.
Yeah.
And then she had slid downhill.
Well, one
through
would
drug
assume
use.
she owned a home in L.A.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Even in the 80s, that's still...
Yeah, but she apparently looked like crap by the time she died.
But yeah, no, she looked really bad by the end just because of the drugs. But so anyway, they are in the master bedroom, and they were also both beaten to death.
Okay.
There is footage available of this crime scene. The police who went into it, they described it as an utter bloodbath. They've said it looked like somebody had walked through the house with buckets of blood, throwing it around. That's how brutally these people were beaten. This was such a just crazy scene that for the first time ever, the Los Angeles Police Department took a video camera in and videotaped the entire scene. You gotta remember, this is 1981. Video technology is not something the cops normally would have access to, but they recorded the whole thing. That's available on the internet. I'm going to tell you now that it is not for the faint of heart. If the sight of blood bothers you, I wouldn't watch it. We're probably not going to link to it, but it is through a very simple string of Google. You can find it.
So how did the police find out about this, though?
It's a very good question. So we don't know if the attack happened in the late night or early morning of the 1st of July, but
The dark hours.
the dark hours, but sometime during the middle of the day on the 1st of July, there's a guy working next door. He was a mover, and he kept hearing moans. He kept hearing noises. It was Susan, because she was alive.
Were they kind of townhouses, like really close together?
They're super close
Yeah,
together.
so, okay,
They're
that's
super
reasonable. Yeah.
tight. There's probably 5 feet between them at the most.
Okay.
You didn't Google this? You Street View it?
No.
You know me, I always have to.
I know you
we,
do.
We
I
knew.
just-
Yeah.
But no, they're right next to each other. And so what he did is he walked up the house and I think he looked in the door and he could see.
And that's all he needed.
That's all he needed. And he called the cops. And so the cops came, and some of the bodies were so badly beaten that they couldn't identify them from their faces. It took fingerprints.
And luckily they'd all been arrested before, right?
they had all been through the system. Yeah. So their prints were in the system.
Luckily.
Yeah.
Made it easier.
Yeah. So, it turns out that whoever had committed this act, theoretically at least, we believe, or the police believe, whoever committed these murders, what they did is after they'd killed everybody, they tore the house apart because it was an utter disaster. And they believe that what was going on is that they were looking for drugs and money.
No doubt. This was a drug house.
It was a drug house.
They were
and
dealers.
That's exactly why. Is that if you haven't heard of this story before, you've got to be let in on this little secret, which is Ron, Billy, and Susan were part of what was known as the Wonderland Gang. The gang was notorious for selling drugs out of the house, and primarily they were selling cocaine. They were all hooked on heroin, but they sold coke because coke made the most money.
And I heard that these guys were actually kind of blatant about what they were doing, because I heard about people would come by, and instead of coming into the house, they would just go out to the lower balcony and just say, toss me the wad of cash, and then they would drop the drugs down into their hands.
Yes.
I mean, it was the 80s in LA. It's not as though, people
it was the
were
late
really
70s,
crude
early
about
80s
it.
when they were operating. Everybody was doing that stuff.
Yeah.
It was kind of commonplace.
Yeah.
I guess no offense to anybody who's offended by that. No, I meant it. I meant the offense. I'm sorry.
Sounds fair.
For saying that everybody was doing coke in the 80s in LA.
No.
My mom, for reference, my mom lived in LA in the late 70s, early 80s, so I know.
You've heard some stories.
I've heard some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. Let me give you some information on what a class act the Wonderland Gang was. So what they would do is they would sell drugs. But to acquire drugs, they would buy drugs and resell them at a higher price, but they would also steal drugs. And what they would do is they would go to other dealers, they would get police badges, stolen or fake, whichever, and bust into somebody's house pretending to be the cops, steal all their drugs and money, and then turn around and sell those drugs back on the street. Mm-hmm. And so there was nothing but pure profit at that point.
And really, what are you going to do? You can't call the cops and be like, hey, somebody stole my cocaine.
Well, there actually is one thing you can do. You can go by and beat them to death with a pipe.
If you know who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is that these guys, they had to look like cops, so it wasn't as if they wore masks. If they showed up with police badges and masks, everybody like, you're not really a cop, screw you.
Right.
But when you show up as with a gun and a badge, people tend to not resist.
Yeah.
And that's how they work their magic.
This reminds me of the first season of True Detective.
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, when he goes undercover.
Yeah. Going to the house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
Crazy good series.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta recommend that.
Yep. So, here's the thing, is that people are coming and going to this house all the time, and drugs are being sold out of the house all the time. So that's part of the reason that when the attack took place, it wasn't reported. Because all the neighbors, I mean, it had to have been loud. There had to be screams and shouts of just, pure terror and pain and agony.
Maybe.
And nobody called the cops because they were like, another friggin' party next door, and they're just hopped up, and they would either ignore it, or as one lady said, she turned up the TV to drown it out.
Yeah, you know what I've actually noticed, particularly if you are used to hearing screams a lot, it's hard to delineate screams of like joy and ecstasy.
The differentiation?
Yeah, from screams of pain, particularly if if any of our neighbors started screaming, we would immediately be like, oh God, something's wrong, right?
Yeah.
But if they're screaming all the time,
if you live next to a screamer, you start to tune it out.
Right, and you definitely aren't going to tune in if suddenly it sounds a little different.
Yeah.
So, I know that there are people out there who will always say, well, no, you can tell the difference between those screams. but I don't
Well, and the other thing
think
is,
you can.
the neighbors might have heard the screams and thought, it sounds like somebody's being murdered, but I really don't like those people.
Right.
So-
Or
Go
even
ahead.
like,
Maybe that.
Yeah.
or even they've beat some other people up in the house before. Like the people who live there would bring people and beat them. You know, like it's not.
Yeah, if
unheard
somebody
of.
tries to screw you on a deal in your house, it's a well-known fact that people get their ass handed to them for doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you'd be used to hearing this stuff.
Yeah.
So, we're going to keep moving.